I really don't like the idea of making videos bragging about how smart I am. Okay, I like it, but I've never really done it before. In fact, I've never really done a proper follow-up to anything that I've covered in the past, besides some vlogs on my backup channel. So I got really excited about a recent archaeological discovery, a discovery that one could argue I basically predicted, and this has inspired me to explain how I even got to this point in my YouTube career in the first place. So what am I talking about here? A few months ago, an archaeological team uncovered an ancient relief of a hero character in Turkey dating back to at least 11,000 years ago, right around that same time as the character from Göbekli Tepe, also in Turkey. This new character is paired up with other figures, such as large cats surrounding the central figure, and a bull that is fighting a second depiction of that same character who is now holding a snake. As I've described in other videos, these are all elements from the hero's journey. This is a big deal. The archaeological team that found this is being celebrated for finding the oldest narrative scene ever depicted. This is the oldest story we have ever found. And the best part is it's carved in stone. The good stuff. I knew that this guy existed and told you about him over 2 years ago. I showed how this character holding his junk spread all across Asia and even North America during a huge human migration starting around 11,000 years ago. I theorized the existence of a hero character originating in Turkey dating back to 12,000 years ago with Superman chevrons on his chest and holds his phallus. And then I also, in a separate video, showed you that there is a character who holds back animals, a master of animals. And at the end of that video, I implied that he has to be that same character, that same hero from Göbekli Tepe that holds his junk. And until today, I have not actually had one single piece of evidence to actually say that those two characters are the same. But this guy is very clearly both of those heroes amalgamated into one. He is the original hero from the hero's journey. And look at him. There he is, an 11,000-year-old Superman mastering animals, holding his junk. Now, it might not be extremely significant that we found yet another example of a master of animals, and it might not be extremely significant that we found yet another 11,000-year-old version of this hero from Göbekli Tepe. I mean, those are both very significant things. But what is very significant is that I had to go around the world twice in 2 separate videos to prove that these two heroes are the same hero, and then only a few months later, they found a relief that literally does exactly that in one foul swoop. Holy shit. There are a lot of hypotheses that I have like this though, and sometimes I set them up as riddles for you to figure out on your own, hoping that you'll take the bait and one day beg me to make a video explaining them. But I'll admit that I'm a little bit shocked that after my Fallen Angels video that I said that the Fallen Angels came from the Dogstar series, and not one single one of you asked me where the Dogstar series actually is on the globe. I mean, I'll tell you, you're gonna hate the answer. Lumeria. I know. Ugh. If I may get poetic again here for a second, there is a beauty in mystery. And being the guy that destroys that beauty makes me a villain. That's why I play the villain character. It's magical not knowing what's happening behind the curtain. It's magical believing that an angel is sent from heaven and is not just some deranged lunatic with money and power, or some lightning anomaly in the sky being used to manipulate you in some way. We'd like to believe we're not being manipulated, but I like to be that guy that knows the truth and lives in the pain of the truth. And describing those mysteries in story form can make those mysteries more magical, or they can take that magic away. And I've done it both ways. And I think that's sort of the point of my series. That's why I like to do everything through fiction and adding a little bit of lore and mystery myself, because I know that it's painful finding out that the world is rotting on the inside. That too can still be beautiful. Like the rabbit, that's a perfect metaphor for Jesus. Jesus. That's something that you can use both ways. Ancient people would spend their entire spring and summer hunting rabbits until they all disappeared in the winter. And then you hang a dead rabbit on your fence at the end of the season, and magically millions more rabbits would show up next spring. But we know now that that's not a miracle, that's not magic, that's simple biology, that's math. But back then, they needed stories, they needed lore to understand how those sorts of things were happening under their feet. Those stories were created by ancient people to describe the processes of the universe, to help them better understand their place in the world and to give them better agency over their land and the animals that they farm. And all of those stories are based off of celestial movements. Those heroes describe the movements of the stars so that those people would know when during the year to do those things. I hope that that's at least one of the things that I've managed to demonstrate throughout this series. Even the Sumerians used the stars to describe their religion. And the hero from the hero's journey is not even the only part of my theory. I'm still completely convinced that my garden machine hypothesis is also correct, an ancient power plant based on the pyramids of Egypt, a design that people maintained well into the Victorian era, and then suddenly disappeared, and for some reason nobody remembers that those buildings existed, even though they still exist. I wasn't the first person to point my brain in this direction. I followed Tesla's footsteps on this concept. In fact, his tower in Long Island is based off of the Great Pyramids. But I am clearly the first person to model this design to fit neoclassical Gothic structures. Nobody built a more modern model that fits classic buildings before me. And to prove that I'm correct, I am also the first person to promise to build a new Mountain of God with a giant letter G on the side, using the original Ark of the Covenant as its core. Well, one day. But my prediction of the hero character discovery is related to my universal religion hypothesis. I knew this guy existed because I saw his archetype in every major religion throughout history. Every single time I tried to get the story to fit a new religion, they always had a character within that religion that perfectly fit the archetype, including Christianity. I levied the hypothesis that all of these stories are describing the same events and similar subsequent events, and that they're describing the same man who experienced those events. A hero who got humanity through the hard times. A hero who knew exactly what was going on, that everyone's going to come fucking crawling on their hands and knees begging for help when the bad things start to happen. I mean, maybe that'll happen. Anyways, that all bloomed into a universal, grand, unified theory that I feel is starting to prove itself to be true. And that unified theory is that the apocalypse is on the way. So this discovery itself doesn't really prove that the apocalypse is true, obviously. That's just like a story point that I keep using to sort of keep all of these religions tied together. But I think that I can officially say this pillar of my theory is officially in the bag. I guess you could say that the three pillars of my theory are the universal hero hypothesis, check mark there, the universal world religion hypothesis, I feel like I'm kind of halfway there proving that, and then the ancient technology hypothesis, which is going to be the hardest to prove, but I feel like my last video, I might have changed some minds with that one. I think this guy in Turkey helps prove that this hero character is universal and is related to the cataclysm events of 12,000 years ago. So, boom, big win for Gregory. But I was genuinely feeling anxiety about telling you guys about this stuff in the very beginning. I always wanted to tell you about this. I mean, I had some of this shit figured out back in 2011, but I'm really happy that I waited until now because all of the pieces fell into place at exactly the right time. Like, imagine that I tried to prove this like 5 years ago and then I had to wait until today to finally say, aha, I was right. That'd be so humiliating. Still, I needed a motivational boost to get me started in all of this in the very beginning, and all of those Mudflood guys were so absolutely shit terrible at researching these subjects and disseminating the information. They didn't give me any confidence that I was going to be taken seriously on these subjects. Then one day, while I was researching old world technology, I accidentally came across this lecture by a man who helped refurbish the centralized steam heating system in part of New York York City. I can't remember which borough, but we have one of these in Kingston, Ontario as well, in the university campus. Basically, the way these work is a building with a central boiler system sends steam out into radiators across dozens of buildings throughout an entire borough of a city. This is common technology from the 1800s, and several cities have something like this. So one might assume that they are super simple steam systems and that maintaining them should be extremely intuitive and easy, right? Wrong. They had no idea how the system worked, from how the air was supposed to move throughout the buildings, or what the underground tunnel system was for, or how a steam circuit even works in the first place. They were completely screwed. Then one day, this totally normal guy comes along, this totally regular guy with a unique view that had never seen something like this before, looks at the system, studies the buildings, and within a few weeks has the entire system completely figured out, down to every detail. He had New York back up and running in months, and he wasn't even educated on that kind of thing. It was just a riddle to him. He just solved the riddle. Just a normal guy. Watching him give this lecture on how he was able to figure this out was perhaps the single most inspirational thing I had ever experienced in my life. I watched that 2 months before I made my first history video. I couldn't wait to tell you guys about that. Like, this guy even noticed that each of these buildings had a screen door in their basement, like the way you would put a screen door at the entrance of your house to keep bugs out. But these doors instead led down twisting stairways into a tunnel system. And this guy noticed that the buildings that had replaced those screen doors with a solid door were the buildings that were experiencing the most problems. Well, it turns out that those screen doors are supposed to allow air to flow down to those tunnels. Those tunnels are cold air return vents, and they all lead back to the central boiler like an air circuit, like a normal central heating system. Like, genius, man. I never would have figured that out, right? Me? But it was all about it just being a riddle to solve. And it's like, yeah, like that's it. We all want to solve those riddles. And since then, I've laid out a lot of the answers to the mysteries of the universe to you guys. Stuff that Masons and shit have to struggle decades to learn. I just give that shit to you for free, and you don't even care. That's the funniest part. I mean, I literally have a video that explains how the entire universe works, and it doesn't even have 100,000 views. I mean, everything. All of you. There's no justice in this world. The point I'm trying to make here, though, is that I am nobody. I'm just an idiot YouTuber doing this for fun, and I managed to predict the existence of an ancient 12,000-year-old hero character who holds his junk and masters animals. All right? I did that. An idiot nobody. And if I can do that just f***ing around for fun, imagine what you could do. So, get out there.